the Bible, as well as other religions, often have pretty fantastic claims, and they sound impossible. So let's take a look at some of them.
Psalm 104. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain. Thus saith God the Lord, He that created the heavens and stretched them out, He that spread forth the earth, and that which cometh out of it, which commandeth the sun, and it riseth not, and sealeth up the stars, which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea, which maketh Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south, which doeth great things past finding out, yea, and wonders without number.
That was only 3 instances in the Holy Bible of many that allude to the universe expanding, the stars expanding. And there's more. That was just 3 of the more in-your-face ones. And you wonder, okay, usually science and religion don't get along, right? But you see here, cosmos controversy. The universe is expanding, but how fast? And it's an article where they're discussing the universe is expanding according to them. Another article is in Newsweek, and there's a huge void in space, and we are living inside it, scientists say. And it goes on to say that the universe is expanding. Of course, here's asking an astronomer, what is the universe expanding into? And so science and religion are not butting heads on this. They're actually agreeing. And it's not just science and Christianity that's agreeing. There's other religions that agree too. I don't understand why they would put Christianity and modern Judaism, the two are not alike. In Buddhism, they agree that it's expanding. Hinduism, some of them do, some don't. Islam, I have one from the Quran, and it goes into, they're even agreeing. And the heaven we created with might, and indeed we are its expander. So, He, God, is the originator of the heavens and the earth. Is not He who created the heavens and the earth able to create the likes of them? Yes, He is the knowing creator. His command is only when He intends a thing, He says to it be, and it is. So they obviously agree with it. Then we have Jainism, and I'm not sure what that is, but they believe in it. Chinese mythologies believe in it. So there's definitely a consensus that most religions, or many religions I should say, and science, as far as expansion goes, are on the same thing. So you got to be wondering, what am I trying to say? What's the big deal? If the universe is ever expanding, What does this mean? It could, and I'm not saying it does, it could explain how ancient civilizations have known about things that took us to the 40s, 50s, somewhere through there to learn. I mean, here's a nebula sky disk, 1600 BC. You know, so I mean, you're thinking, well, that's a sky disk. What does that have? There's a good website right here. It's lost most of his images. But this is prior to 16 AD, mankind had knowledge about Earth, Sun, our Moon, and planets like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. This was possible because all the heavenly bodies could be seen by the naked eye. Later, Uranus was discovered in 1781 by William Herschel. That's pretty accurate, but it's also not very accurate. Pluto discovered in 1930. 2006, three dwarf planets series, Eris and however you pronounce that, Mamiya, were also discovered. And if you put all of them together, that would be 12. Now the Sumerians, they already had 11 planets that revolved around the sun. Some people say the Earth was counted in that. Some people say the Moon. I don't know. But it says they had already come across the fact that only 5 planets of our solar system were visible to mankind and the naked eye. Planets like Uranus in 1781, Neptune in 1846, and Pluto in 1930. Ceres in 2006, Eris in 2006, and whatever that is, Haumea 2006, were discovered later. Of course, it says in the photograph below, considered to be 6,000-year-old cylinder seal impression. We find 11. There's no photo below, but I do have a photo of it that I'll show you later. But anyway, he goes on. Of course, this site's more, it goes into the Vedas and different religions, but he's sort of almost, I think this is the one. I'm not going to say. Anyway, so let's get back on track. In Babylonian astronomy, they found this from this Babylonian tablet. And they were actually writing down and making that. Now, the Babylonians were the first. A lot of people think they're the oldest civilization, but they've discovered since one other older. But Babylonians were the first to make almost like an antique version of the printing press where they could repeat this over and over and over. So, they're pretty smart. They were also the first recorded Halley's Comet, 164 and 187 BC apparitions. You had Greek astronomy. Somehow the Greek knew the circumference of the Earth. It's pretty strange. And this dude also calculated the Earth's axis tilt. Egyptians. The Egyptians, they already went and looked. They had a lot of knowledge of the stars, etc. And then the Indians, not American Indians, India Indians, they were quite smart. They even have devised a flying machine that, though it uses a lot of mercury, they think could actually be a feasible flying machine. But I mean, it was just, they were able to deduce that not only Earth was rotating on its axis, but also calculated the rotation. They knew when the lunar and solar eclipses. You got Chinese. Now, Chinese, quite impressive, quite smart. They were the first to make the more modernized typewriter. I know you'll study that it was in England or somewhere, but it wasn't. It was actually the Chinese. Also, they were the first to make fireworks. And it's funny, the fireworks were actually used as weapons to start with. But that's neither here nor there. They had a lot of firsts. They observed Jupiter. They had all kinds of star catalogs. I mean, these people are really paying attention to everything. The Mayan, many Mesoamerican cultures showed a deep interest in astronomy. Many of them developed calendars and almanacs that would act as guides, allowing them to plan for important events such as planting and harvesting crops and even going to war. Nowadays, we're all familiar with the infamous Mayan Calendar, which some claim predicted the apocalypse back in 2012. It didn't, by the way. But the truth is that even in its day, the Mayan Calendar was one of the most advanced and sophisticated astronomical calendars. They were extraordinarily, extremely smart at all this. You had the Incans, another super intelligent group as far as astronomical and cosmology. They had the lunar calendar. You had the Arabs. With the rise of Islam, brought an increased interest in science for many Arab and Persian cultures. They too were right up on things. Persians. Here's what the book of fixed stars. Even the Indians, Native American Indians, First Peoples, even they had quite a knowledge of the stars. And so, with all these people having knowledge of all these stars, I mean, right here, I've got a picture of this too. I'll put up after this. And the geeky mechanism was recently discovered is a massive example of ancient Greek astronomical knowledge. They were just super smart. But, some people will say, well, that's because aliens come to us from other planets and they taught it. And, you got the Anunnaki thing going on. Or, they were gods that came to Earth and they created men using, I guess, animals that were here, the monkeys or what have you, mixed with their DNA so that they would have free mining and slavery. That's one. But I really don't think that does it. I don't think that quite cuts it. By the way, here's the ancient Vedic astronomers. Put the count of the planets as 9. So, Vedic, I realize it's not Sumerian. But anyway, I'm going off topic. But there's a second explanation for the reason why all these people could have known all this about the stars, the planets. And that is, if we are an ever-expanding universe, then we would have been a smaller universe in the beginning, which would have put all the planets and stars, etc., within a closer proximity, so that you didn't need all this fancy equipment to observe. But then again, you look, we think that these people were backwards. They had to teach you in school that, pretty much these were just like cavemen, hunter-gatherers. I love that one, hunter-gatherers. They have you thinking that these people were just did not know squat. Problem is, that just ain't true. If that were true, then how in the world could they pull off the feats that they did? Back many, many moons ago. I mean, you look around, misspelled engineering. We couldn't build this today. We can't take it apart. This we could probably do. But could we do it that well? Really? There is just so much that they were able to do. We couldn't do this. I mean, there's no way. We don't have the technology to allow us to do this intricate of work with this heavy of stuff. I mean, it's just not possible. And that was Aztec, by the way. We couldn't do this. And this thing, you gotta take for granted, this thing's been out in the weather for years, centuries. There are things like this, these Hindu temples, carved out of stone. We couldn't do this these days, that time, even with our fancy tools and our alleged engineers. By the way, this is the implement that right here, that mechanism. I mean, how could they do that if they were hunter-gatherers? I think that a lot of things in history has gotten it wrong. I really, really do. I think we're taught wrong. We can't go up there and build nothing to stay there because of the earthquakes, etc. And yet this thing's stood for hundreds and hundreds of years. One of these days I'd like to see that. But I don't think we're as superior as what we believed ourselves to be. And I don't think they were as inferior as we're taught that they were, because they just done too much that we can't replicate. There is another possibility, and that possibility is that the firmament that was around the earth provided almost like a magnified view of what was out there. Believe me, I've got images of both. I don't want to get into the flat earth thing or round. And finally, the other option would be the fallen angels, or the Nephilim, as some people call them. They were the 200 watchers that came down. So those of you that's read stuff that I've done in the past kind of expect this. That's the next possibility. What we fail to realize is that when these 200 came down, they taught men and women certain things. And so when they came down, I mean, they were each given a section that they could be over. So I'm thinking, in my thoughts, that's the reason why when you see these polytheistic groups, it's not gods they're worshiping. Well, they're little g gods. And if you take for granted that, or into account, I should say, that Lucifer is the prince of the air, so his demons or devils are going to be the prince of the air. People back then did not have words for alien. That word didn't exist. What we call aliens now, they called angels and demons. And so I think these are the ones that taught people all the astronomical. There's a lot of things they taught people. Some of it wasn't bad. Some of it was real bad. I think Gary Wayne calls it the 7 sciences. If you don't have that book, get the book. It's an excellent book. But they were put away, and for 40 generations. And that 40 generations, it's pretty much up. It's been up since the 1800s. It's funny. Stop and think since, say, 1890. All the inventions. Think of how far we've jumped, how fast we've done it. So, I'm going to play one little bitty clip, and I hope it don't do a lot of reverb like it usually does. From, it's called Ages of Deceit 2. If you've never watched it, watch it. Because what was before will be again. I think the Bible calls it, there's nothing new under the sun. So I'm just going to play a little clip. Then that'll be the end of it.
The church in America is going to suffer so terribly. And we laugh now, but they will come after us, and they will come after our children. They will close the net around us while we are playing soccer mom and soccer dad, while we are arguing over so many little things and mesmerized by so many trinkets. The net even now is closing around you and your children and your grandchildren, and it does not cause you to fear. You will be isolated from society, as has already happened. Anyone who tries to run for office who actually believes the Bible will be considered a lunatic until finally we are silenced. We will be called things that we're not and persecuted not for being followers of Christ, but for being radical fundamentalists who do not know the true way of Christ, which of course is love and tolerance. You'll go down as the greatest bigots and haters of mankind in history. They've already come after your children, and for most of you, they got them. They got them through the public schools and indoctrination, and the university and indoctrination, and then you wonder why your children come out not serving the Lord. It's because you fed them right into the devil's mouth. So little by little, the net is closing around, and then it's not little by little. Look how fast things are going downhill just in a matter of weeks. But at the same time, know this: persecution is always meant for evil, but God always means it for good. And is it not better to suffer in this life, to have an extra weight of glory in heaven? You must settle this in your mind. This is the one thing I want to say over and over. Down through history, you have a wrong idea of martyrdom and persecution. You think that these men were persecuted and martyred for their sincere faith in Jesus Christ. That was the real reason, but no one heard that publicly. They were martyred, and they were persecuted as enemies of the state, as bigots, as narrow-minded, stupid people who had fallen for a ruse and can contribute nothing to society. Your suffering will not be noble. So your mind must be filled with the Word of God when all people persecute you and turn on you. This is no game. You want revival and awakening, but know this. For the most part, great awakenings have come only preceding great national catastrophes of the persecution of the church.